inflation, that if those high prices are going to be transferred to the employee, then the employee is going to say that your money is no longer able to purchase the same value of goods and services that I was purchasing before. They will increase his wages, and they also increase cost of production of firms. They will increase the prices of their goods. So that's what I mean by wage price spiral, whereby we end up having an endless cycle of inflation, more inflation causing more inflation. So it's very horrible for an economy. Then consumer price spiral is all about you as a consumer. You're anticipating that inflation is going to rise in the coming months. So you're trying to protect yourselves against that rise in inflation. So what is going to happen is that you're going to bring forward your consumption in ways that you have never done before, especially on high price items. So that's how you cause more inflation. That's what I mean by consumer price spiral, whereby consumers are rational. They will behave rationally whenever they anticipate that inflation is going to increase. So that anticipated nature is going to cause the consumer price spiral. So it's a very interesting argument that you have to understand. Then the other cause which you have to know is uncertainty. Uncertainty is all about uncertain. Firms and consumers are uncertain what is going to happen in the future. They don't know what is going to happen. So firms are going to hold back investing because they don't know what is going to happen, what the price they are going to charge in the future. They don't know. Even consumers are going to delay their consumption or major purchases. They don't know the prices that are going to be charged in the future. So that is the idea behind the issue of uncertainty. Being uncertain, living uncertain times, where you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So that kind of environment is very, 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 very sneaky to actually survive that kind of environment. Then the last cause that I want to mention is savers. I already talked about this point on schedule the cost here, but I'm just going to conclude it saying that you as a saver, you have your savings in the bank, and your savings the interest rate tend to be fixed and tend not to be adjusted for inflation. So that's inflation will erode the value of your savings. They will lose their value. So that's the last cost of higher rate of inflation. So I want to cross over to the benefits of a lower rate of inflation. So there are also going to be benefits of a lower rate of inflation that I'm going to look at now. So the first benefit is that workers increase wages. Workers like inflation to some extent because they actually have a bargaining power. When there is inflation, workers, if they say they want to increase their wages, if they be asked what's the reason behind you telling us that you want a pay increase, they will say that your money can no longer purchase the necessities that I need to survive. So inflation is actually brings benefits whereby workers will have a bargaining power when there is inflation. So workers will like inflation as it increases their wages. Even if we talk about that, maybe that increase in wages are only matching that inflation that year, but workers feel like they have more money to spend whenever they see a pay increase, right? That's what they understand. So workers will like it, inflation to some extent. They're going to be increase their wages, so they feel like they have more money to spend when when their wages are increased, regardless whether the wage that is increased is only matching inflation that year. So that is the first benefit. Then the second benefit is it incentivizes production. So what is going to happen is that if firms anticipate, firms understand that prices are rising at a low and stable rate each year, what is the strongest incentive that they have? That let's just assume that demand remains the same for their products, so that incentivizes production. They're actually going to maintain their profit margin, so that is going to be desirable for a firm, whereby inflation will actually incentivize them to increase production to maintain their profit margins. So the other benefit is that unemployment is reduced in a recession. You know what a recession is, right? You look at the economic cycle, where a recession is a period whereby it's characterized by less reduction in aggregate demand, reduction in consumer confidence, where everything is actually falling, right? So let's say that in a recession there was a rate of inflation. So what a firm does, instead of firing its workers, it gets to keep their workers because they know that their workers will want a pay increase. But what they will do, this is a very tricky part, they will actually increase wages of their workers. Let's say inflation has increased by 3% that year, they're going to increase the wages of their workers only by 1%. So workers will feel happier because they will see increase in their pay. As for the firm, it will be happy because it's likely going to uh, keep their cost of production low, which is also beneficial to the industry, whereby their costs are going to be low. Also, they get to keep their most qualified skilled workers, most skilled workers, which if they were to unemploy them, they were not going to find them. So that's the benefit of unemployment is reduced in a recession. So it's a very interesting argument where firms will pay workers less than the inflation rate that year. So the last benefit is that stable rate of inflation. A stable rate of inflation actually incentivizes healthy consumption habits, right? So a low rate of inflation is like incentivizes the workers, incentivizes the consumers actually to actually see that there's no need for them to hold back in consuming, increasing all their aggregate demand or buying any major purchases when there's a low rate of inflation. Actually, it increases growth, incentivizes growth to actually increase in the country. So a stable consumption habit is actually beneficial for the economy because we don't want workers to be pressurized, consumers to be pressurized to make major purchases to try to protect themselves against price rises. So a low rate of inflation is actually healthy so that they can actually have a healthy consumption habits. Healthy consumption habits will actually make the firm actually make the economy more flexible, more lucrative. That's the term that I can use. So a stable rate of inflation is actually healthy for economy, incentivizes the healthy consumption habits. Okay, that's the last benefit of a low rate of inflation. So we're going to cross over to the evaluation side, whereby we're talking about how can we evaluate such a discursive essay, which was very interesting. Talking about it actually emphasizes more points to come about as a result of that. So it's a very interesting argument. So the first evaluation point that I'm going to give is that we evaluate talking about the cause. Inflation is not always bad, but it depends on the cause. What is causing inflation? So remember we talked about in my previous video looking at the causes of inflation. So demand inflation is quite healthy for an economy because it increases growth, but where it causes push inflation, it's horrible for economy because it reduces growth, especially its supply side lag is going to cause major problems. Then we also talk about the duration. How long is the inflation expected to last, right? So if it is only for a few months, that's not going to be the worst inflation in the world. So talking about the duration that the inflation is expected to last, but it's going to for many years, it's going to be a very big problem. Then talk about the undisputed inflation. This is the result that undisputed inflation, if inflation is not undisputed in the economy, you can actually correct it. In the short run, we can actually find ways to correct such an inflation. But if it has problems such as wage price spiral and consumer price spiral, that inflation is going to be horrible. Then the last evaluation point, severity. How big is the inflation rate? So in advanced nation, if it exceeds 5%, it's going to be the worst inflation in the world. So talking about 10% in developing nations, it's going to actually make more benefits, more costs than outweighing the benefits. So they have to consider the severity argument there. Then that is the costs and benefits of inflation. Thank you so much for watching this video where I go through the costs and benefits of inflation. It's a very important the debate is that is usual answer in some situation, so you should know about it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will see you next video where we look at the policies to reduce inflation. Thank you.